brown on brown, isn't it?
That was why I didn't notice. I could see the big house was wrong, and the chair was about to start, and I went, Sammy Riley, and he went, no, the clock's wrong, and it's an hour out. Can you not see that? No, because exactly that.
Should we get started? Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the East Devon District Council Scrutiny Committee meeting of the 5th of October 2023. I'm your Chair, Councillor Mike Goodman. The meeting is being recorded and is live on the Council's YouTube channel. Now, there are no fire alarm drills anticipated today. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave the building through the nearest fire exit by following the green running man signs above the doors and make your way to the rear of the car park. The organiser of the meeting will tell you when it is safe to return. Please make sure all your phones are either muted or switched off, and all councillors have been sent the agenda for today's meeting. Any members of the public who want to view the agenda can do so by going on to www.eastdevon.gov.uk. We will now start the meeting with doing a roll call of the committee meeting here present. When you hear your name, please unmute your microphone and confirm by saying present. When you have confirmed you are present, please mute your microphone again. Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, please.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Cahill. Councillor Bethany Collins.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Roy Collins.
Present.
Councillor Goodman.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp. Councillor McKinder.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Smith. Councillor Wibley.
Present.
Thank you. And I can confirm that we'll call it. Chair.
Have we got any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Hall, Councillor Heath, Councillor Troy, Councillor Bruce and Councillor Chapman.
Okay, thank you. So,
Also apologies from Councillor Wibley.
okay, thank you. Now, going on to the first item of the agenda, item 2, meetings of the previous meeting held on the 7th of September, pages 3 to 8. I've got one comment, but or two comments. Have any councillors wish to comment? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair, very much. Yes, just looking at the minuting of the public speaking by former Councillor Jack Rowland, who, as you remember, gave us some, I suppose, accurately called corrective facts. I think, as I understood it from the meeting, you were going to go away and try and check the veracity of that. Have you managed to do so yet? Thank you.
No, I have not. Okay, any other comments from anybody? Well, just two minor comments, really. One is on their page 6, I think it is, we talked about the performance meeting. I can confirm that it's going to happen on November the 1st with the officers are meeting then to look at performance data. And the other is on page 5, the task and finish group. And I wonder if we can have an update of where we are with that, because I know there's some issue about being able to do that task and finish group that was discussed at the last meeting.
No, Chair, is probably the answer. Unfortunately not. Sarah Jenkins has been dealing with it and unfortunately became unwell this morning. I will ask her when she's back, or I'll check with Melanie and we'll send her an update, because I'm sorry, I've not been in the loop.
Yeah, my understanding last week was the ability of the service to carry out the work that we would want to be carried out to support the task group. And they're saying they haven't got the time or the manpower to do it. And I wonder if we have some clarification on that, because it was quite an important item at the last meeting. If we could have that back.
Certainly, Chair.
Thank you very much.
I'll obtain an update.
So you're happy to agree the rest of all those minutes?
Sorry, Chair, when will we get that update? And will that be sent out to us so that we don't have to wait another month before we get an update on what should have happened 3 weeks ago, in my opinion?
Yes, thank you.
I will find out as soon as I can, and I suspect we'll liaise with the Chair, and if it's appropriate, we'll send it round.
Okay, item 3, mindful of the code of conduct, do any members of the committee have any declarations? Please state your declaration, including which agenda item your declaration relates to. State what exactly the interest is and the specific type of interest you are declaring. Now, are there any councillors in the meeting who want to declare an interest in any of the items listed on the agenda that may affect their ability to remain in the meeting? No, thank you. So, item 4, public questions. There are no public. So, agenda item 5, matters of urgency. There are none. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. Sorry for my slightly flamenco way of drawing attention to me. Yes, I just wondered if yet, and I quite understand if not, but we are aware that moving forward we'll have some involvement from the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny, and I wonder if you've yet had an opportunity to talk to Democratic Services or our MO, or if you plan to, in the lead up to that. Thank you.
Are you addressing that to me?
Yes, Chair.
Well, of course, any person that wishes to speak to me or for me to get involved in talking about scrutiny, yes, of course, but I've not been invited to any meeting. I would take it that once that's all in place, I would be invited to comment.
I think that's the case, Chair. I don't think we've had any contact as yet. It would come into Melanie, but I'm reasonably sure that we haven't had anything yet. But yes, it will involve the Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Item 6, confidential items. There are none. Item 7, decisions made by the Cabinet, including portfolio holders, called to meeting for scrutiny in accordance with the overview and scrutiny procedures. There are none. So on to item 8. And on to yourself regarding the update of the draft scrutiny protocol that first came here in July.
Thank you, Chair. And unfortunately, it's still in the working. There hasn't been capacity to progress it. Melanie, the monitoring officer, is trying to do that, and as soon as it is done, it will come to the committee as soon as possible, but unfortunately it's not been finished as yet.
So thank you for that. So when we come to later on with the forward plan and to scope out what we want regarding the cabinet members, will we be able to get that so we can have a cabinet report at the next meeting? As it is important because we've now missed 2. And as you know, I want a slimmed down one. We don't want a 14-page document. I think a slimmed down one, because before there was so much time spent by officers and cabinet members, and I think we could slim it down a lot to be very punchy. So if we could get that done so that we can have some reports in the next meeting, I think the committee would appreciate that.
I think that would be good if we can, I think as we've discussed before, put some bones to it later on in this meeting. Whether it's for the next one, I don't know, but certainly Sarah Jenkins has that in hand and is talking to the portfolio holders, particularly the ones we didn't get to last year. And so yes, if we could put some detail together, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, so on to item 9 is the correspondence from Simon Jupp regarding South West Water, pages 9 to 13. This has come to us because in November last year, there was a meeting, Zoom meeting with South West Water, and there were a number of things discussed at that meeting, and one of the requests was that the 2 people covering East Devon, which was at the time Simon Jupp and Richard Ford, as MPs, would send us reports or come to this meeting. And what we asked for was for reports. Now, we got the report from Simon Jupp, but we didn't get a report from Richard Ford. I'm not sure why, but we haven't got a report from him. But if we could look at this report from Simon Jupp, are there any comments that either outside the committee wish to make, first of all? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. I'm much obliged by one of our MPs to report to scrutiny on what he is doing with water companies. As this comes under my portfolio, it's very valuable to understand what our MPs are doing on our behalf with their dealings with South West Water. It's disappointing that I have not been asked what I and our officers have been doing with regards to South West Water. However, there are a number of comments I would like to raise from the MP statements. Shall I go through those now?
Yes, yeah.
I'm quoting from Simon Jupp's letter. The work this Conservative government is doing to crack down on water companies. And my comments are, why are MPs having a crackdown on water companies when it is the specific job of Ofwat to do just that? Because maybe the industry regulator set up by the Conservative government when they privatised the water companies 40 odd years ago, they haven't actually performed. Next statement, access water and sewage are ending up in our rivers and the sea from storm overflow discharges from combined sewer overflows. My comments are, why are we continually allowing surface water even to enter our foul sewage system in the first place if we know it's causing a problem? The present regulations require surface water goes to a soakaway or infiltration system, or failing that, a watercourse, or failing that, a sewer. For 40 years, we have not changed this legislation. So, is it the water company's fault, or is it the government's and Ofwat's fault for not taking actions to reduce surface water in the foul sewage networks? His next comment was, we already pay the highest sewage bills in the country. This is about the only industry that recognises that providing facilities, infrastructure and services in a peninsula is more expensive. So at least they've got that right. Then Simon says, this Conservative government has a credible plan to tackle sewage discharges through more investment. And my comment is, as we are learning this week, this Conservative credible plan investment is coming from the bill payers at around £150 per year, because the government and Ofwat haven't been ensuring the water companies enough, ensuring that the water companies have been doing their job previously. The general public are paying to put right what the government failed to do. Then Simon Jupp's comment, the government has set new targets enshrined in law to generate the most significant capital investment, 56 billion, and delivery programme ever undertaken by water companies. And my comment is, yes, paid for by the public. So thank you, government, for that. Then Simon Jupp's comment, this Conservative government is giving regulations like Ofwat and the Environment Agency more powers to clamp down on water companies than ever before. And my comment is, but in 2014, the then Environment Secretary pulled millions from the EA annual budget, specifically covering river surveys. If you have not the staff to check it, you can't clamp down on it. Then Simon Jupp's comment, the government has passed new laws to allow regulators to impose unlimited civil penalties. And my comment is, so removing it from criminal law we'll start again. So if removing it from criminal law with the threat of a criminal conviction, is that the best approach? And then finally, this Conservative government is giving regulations like Ofwat on the Environment Agency more power to clamp down on water companies than ever before. Unfortunately, I've put, it's a bit late, now 43 years later. So, thank you.
I don't think I'll comment about what you said until everybody else has had a chance. Anybody else outside? Right, the committee. Anybody inside the committee like any comments? Councillor Barlow.
Yes. We've just heard 40 years of poor investment, this, that and the other. There's been many different governments, different sorts, that could have changed it if they'd wanted to in the 40 years. I'm not going to try and blame them. I'm not really interested in who created the problem. The problem that we've got Sidmouth has been dealing with now. We've been trying to clean up the River Sid and the beaches there for 3 years now. I think we've been talking to it, and I'll give credit where credit is due, and I have said this before to our leader and many others that I'm not Conservative. However, I will give credit where credit is due. Simon Jupp has helped Sidmouth Town Council engage with South West Water, and we have, and Tipton St John has got investment of £30 million coming to it. I know that is probably a drop in the ocean, but at least we are getting somewhere. We know there is huge problems, and there is no easy solution to it. There really isn't going to be an easy solution, but we are starting to work forward, and I think people are aware of the problem. And look, yes, you can't imagine he's going to say that their government is bad because he is a member of it. So, of course, he is going to fly the flag for them. And I'm sure if Mr Ford gave us a report, he would fly the flag of what the Liberal Democrats are going to do and how they do it so much better. It's going to be a long-term, it is a big problem. It's going to be a long-term fix, and we need to work with whoever is in power. I don't care if they're Conservative or Liberal Democrat or communist. We've got to work with the people in power to see if we can improve it. And as I said, in what he has done for Sidmouth, all I can say is thank you, because as far as I'm concerned, he has done what an MP should do, regardless of their party, working for all the people of our town to make it better. Thank you. Mr. Collins.
South West Water should never have been formed. Before we had South West Water, we had East Devon Water Board. And this council, East Devon, used to appoint people to South West Water. One of those was a Conservative councillor, Lou Manley. I expect you all know Lou Manley in his house in Exeter, Lou Manley House in Exeter. That was named after him. He used to come back to East Devon Council and he reported what was happening with East Devon Water Board. And if any councillors had any problems with sewage or water, he was the man to go to and sort out. It's totally wrong. This been privatised. It needs to come back into public ownership, where the public can run the thing, not like it is now, profit it out. People lining their pockets when everybody else is suffering. My son was on about today. He cannot afford to let his daughter have a bath. And she's refusing to use the shower because he's got to pay for the water to go in the bath and then he's got to pay for it to go out again. His costs are horrendous. I'm lucky on the farm because I got my own private water, which I maintain myself.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments?
Thank you. I mean, it's in terms of Tipton St John. I mean, I think this is a pattern that I see with South West Water, that they kind of, seem to put a bit more money in, but actually, everything takes so long. So the investment that they're talking about putting in, we're not really going to see the effects of it until 2028. So, and that's not really reflected in the letter that we've had. In terms of Fluxton, and Honiton, there have been discharges going on for years, and it's taking them, they're making massive profit at South West Water, and they're taking too long to fix the problems and to get to the bottom of the problems. So, like Councillor Collins, I think that the whole thing, it should never have been privatised. And whilst, I can see what Simon Jupp is doing in his letter and the detail that he's put in, there's a fundamental systemic problem with the system. And, this is, not really addressing the fundamental issues that we have. And so I think there's also wider issues with the way that we look at bathing water only for part of the year, so that's now stopped. And I think there needs to be a whole-scale revision and proper funding of the regulators. So until we have that, I don't think that we're going to... can we say that things are better now as a result of, you know, are they substantially better? Are they substantially improved from putting a few million in here and there? No, we can't, because actually the problem is much, much bigger than that. And, you know, certainly the last 10 years, there has not really been any significant improvement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I'd just like to make the comment that I hear my colleagues have said.
Oh, not at all.
It was red and then it went green.
Have that.
That won't do it. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Slide it this way.
What was I? I hear what my colleague was saying about many of the issues here are really not things that we can control as a council because they're national decisions by South West Water. And I think what I'd like to bring it back to is, as scrutiny for East Devon District Council, what can we do? What levers do we have? Now, I will no doubt be told by some of my colleagues back here who know a lot more about planning than I do, that there are some of the planning levers are not available to us. But it does strike me that when we're allowing, especially developments of multiple houses, those sort of scale things, why can't we have built into that the relevant changes to the water system? Also, until you can get changes to water supply and sewage, you're not going to have it. Because obviously for South West Water, the advantage is more customers, more bills, great, more money. But actually you have to do something for that money. You don't have to just take the money, you have to take more sewage and deal with it. And that's what seems to be the problem. So what can we do as a council to start pulling on the right levers? Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I mean, I think one of the interesting things that we could be doing is looking at actually finding out about the extent to which the regulators around here, the Environment Agency and Ofwat, have been defunded, and the extent to which they have the resources in terms of the people on the ground investigating things, and have a look at that and see what they're doing in our area and how that's changed, and you know, investigate whether more can be done, whether we should be pressing for better resource locally.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, and I think we should also try and sponsor the citizen science projects like South West Rivers Trust, which I take part in, where we go and monitor the quality of our local rivers. So if ideally Environment Agency would do it, they will work with these citizen science projects where they're not monitoring routinely. And if we in South West Rivers Trust or the various other ones say we've got some anomalous results, then they will come and investigate, because it's only their numbers which count to get problems fixed. But maybe as a council we can help get more public interest, help those citizen science projects get off the ground. People have more of a feel for their own environment then. They've got more of a vested interest in wanting it fixed. And if that fixing means that they, as ratepayers, bill payers, have to pay a bit more to get something done, they can understand why. Whereas right now it's a case, well, I can pay more, but it goes on a dividend to somebody, not on me getting better sewage treatment. Thank you. Okay,
well, let me try to summarise some of that. The fact that Simon Jupp has spent a lot of time, obviously, on, as Councillor Barrow said, on looking at the problems in Sidmouth, and he's taken the trouble to actually put this together. And yes, we can all pick holes in a report, but I think what underpins this report is what happened on Monday. And I'm sure everybody knows what happened on Monday, that the water boards gave their 5-year plan. So all the water boards now have announced their 5-year plan, and it starts to deal with many of the problems we've discussed today. Many of the problems. And it's too big for us to discuss tonight. It's something like 250 pages. I haven't read it all. I've read quite a lot of it, but there's a lot of good stuff and action plans in there, what they're intending to do. And I thought what South West Water did, they came and did their scrutiny here in November, and I think this is not unusual. I think they've been, throughout the UK, many of these water companies have gone to scrutiny of district councils. And I'd like us to think about bringing them back in a year's time to see how far they've actually delivered on their action plan, on what they announced on Monday, because there was some really important stuff in there. On the storm drains, we know we've got that problem. We've had it for donkey's years. But the good thing now is we've got monitors on there to know when it's becoming an issue. We didn't have monitors on all of them, something like 70-odd%. Then I got them on all of them. And we've got to make sure those monitors are working properly. Because as we know, a lot of the monitors up and down the country have not been working properly. So then we're getting false information. And a lot of the issues we have over water is not always accurate information. We do need accurate information. So as I said, I've read the Southwest, some of the Southwest. I think some really good stuff in there, and I'm sure our officers will be looking at that. But the one thing also I looked at was when they came here last time, and I tried to find the answer today, and I've not been able to find out. One of the things they said they were going to do is to facilitate and pay for water butts. And these are going in throughout the UK. But I don't think we've got a programme for it. Now, what I've tried to find out is, have we got a programme? Because my understanding is South West Water, it's said in the minutes of the meeting in November, they will help fund this. Now, what I would like us to do is to look at that to see if there's an opportunity there. Because the thing about water butts is the way they are put in. They've got to be put in properly, otherwise they don't work properly. But I'd like us to think about having a system, if you like, or a work with South West Water, and to see if actually, have they supplied us one? If they haven't, can we have a programme to help do it? Because I think that's a win-win. So look, we're not going to solve it all tonight, as several of you have said, but I think we need to keep on this. I'll come back to both in a minute. I think we do need to come on to this. But what I would like to do at the end of the debate is to try to think about the things we would like to recommend going forward. But I don't think bringing South West Water or MPs or anybody here to be quizzed is going to help in the short term. But I won't discard what you're saying about Ofwat. I think there may be some evidence around there that we could gain. Sorry, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. Shall I give you some good news now?
Yes.
This week we have the water quality results of our beaches, and they all passed with flying colours, despite what everyone is saying. Yes, there are times when after a storm there is issues, but then that's usually agricultural runoff, which is about 60%. All our beaches will qualify for the blue flags next year, as previously. There are other areas that we have to oblige to get blue flag, like lifesavers and stuff, and that's going to be discussed in budgets. But they're all passed. So, and environmental health have been doing a number of investigations on various leaks that has happened, and there's ongoing investigations on that. Citizen science, that is people going around doing testing and then going onto the internet and reporting it to Environment Agency. I saw a wonderful report from the Sid Valley Group this week that provided some fantastic information on the state of the River Sid, although the report was fantastic, but what he was reporting was there's a lot of issues in that river, which we know. Regarding water butts, yeah, we're in discussions with South West Water at the moment. We have got a problem with connecting water butts to our social housing. We're not allowed to, for some strange reason, and we're looking into that. Don't ask me why. But I would like to see that now water butts be fitted to loads of houses, and hopefully we can tie up with South West Water. They did have a promotion last year, and they gave out hundreds of thousands. I don't know if they need to get them remanufactured or what, but hopefully we'll be able to get some more water butts here.
Thank you. Go back to your first point. Come to your first point. what would be nice to know with the quality of the bathing water is that having a direct effect on improvement of marine life? Because that is really important, because I've been hearing some stories across the country where bathing water is improved, so the seas are more cleaner, and some of the marine life is improved immensely. It'd be good to know, and I don't know if anybody's done the work, whether or not how our coastline is compared to other coastlines, and whether it's improved over the last year or not. And I don't know if one of our officers would know or the AA would know.
One of our officers is very knowledgeable on that subject. I'm afraid I'm not. The results that we get from the Environment Agency is strictly on water quality for safe bathing, and I don't think that would provide us much information. But I'm sure we can talk to the experts that we have in Plymouth and Weymouth and see what.
Thank you.
And now I'll try and get that information and send it on to you.
That's most kind. Councillor.
Thank you for allowing me back in as a non-committee member chair. Yes, just to my working assumption, I think you mentioned, Chair, that this has arisen from last November. I think that's right. So I'm assuming, and there's no reason for you not to have done that, you've prompted Mr. Jupp to write this, and so that's very welcome. I just wonder, was Mr. Ford and Mr. Stride, were Mr. Ford and Mr. Stride similarly prompted? So I think it would be worth our committee officers writing to Mr. Ford as well and asking for his contribution.
Mr. Ford was written to.
When?
Exactly the same day that Simon Jupp was written to.
Okay. It may be he reacted in some other way. I don't know if it's captured, but certainly I think if he was reminded of that, because he's been very copious in replying to every other correspondence from this council, that might be helpful. You know, if the committee thinks.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be good, because you mentioned Stride. He's part of the edge of East Devon, is he?
Yes, he's also within this constituency.
So perhaps we will get them.
Yeah, worth sending reminders to both, just so that nobody makes any nasty, small-minded point about Richard. Thank you.
Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. Well, if South West Waters, obviously it's before my time, came last November, surely the most important thing we could do to find out what is happening for East Devon, that's what we're looking to, is to get them in. Why aren't they asked to come back and report to us what have they achieved in the last year? I think that would, we are East Devon District Council, we do represent the people, and not being funny, we should be able to call people like that in and sit them down and say, right, you came last year, you promised us this, the water butts this, that and the other, where are they? And hold them to account a little bit. Now, we've got to work with these people, but at the same time, they need to answer some questions. So I think once a year a report from them to say what they're doing in our area. There's only, I don't know how many districts in South West Waters patch, but it's not that many. So at the end of the day, I would have thought they could probably do that. Let's put it this way. They've been to see Severn Town Council about once a year, so I'm quite sure they could manage East Devon District Council. The other thing, meters that they fit. Although it's great to have meters that they fit, the problem with the meters they fit is that they measure by the outflow by hours, by time, not by volume. So you have no idea whether it's been leaking 6 hours at 1 litre an hour or 10,000 litres an hour. And I think this is something that we do need to push them on, that we need to know. We need different sort of measurements. You need to know what is actually being leaked, not the amount of hours it's being leaked, because it's almost irrelevant. It could be leaking, a teacup full every hour, or as I said, it could be thousands of litres. So I think that isn't something that we should necessarily celebrate. Yes, it's good that they're there, but there is much better ways of measuring these things, and hours is not a way you would normally measure a volume of water or sort of sewage.
You make a really good point, and we got a note of that, and I think that a separate note needs to go to them. But what I can say is it may be in the plan to measure it differently. I don't know. I haven't read in enough detail, Councillor Barlow, but I think it's a good point you're making. Jeff.
Yeah. Also, how much dilution? No, it could be 95% water, but 5% sewage, or it could be 95%.
There is something in the report, but I can't remember it.
Yeah,
but I think before we send off a letter,
Yeah.
I'll just check that
But-
with officers to make
yeah.
sure I've got it right. But I think asking them
But
those
from-
questions is
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, but from every sewage
Yeah.
works, there has to be a discharge.
Yeah.
Sewage goes in, water should come out. Unfortunately, there's more than water that comes out.
Thank you. Oh, right. Yes. Yes, Bailey.
Thank you very much. I completely agree with Councillor Barlow. Let's get South West Water to come back. Ooh.
I completely agree. Let's get not Councillor Barlow, South West Water to come back. And I think, I mean, last time we had a representative, and that I think he was their kind of community relations person. But I really do believe that we should be asking one of their really senior officers, somebody like Susan Davey, to come and answer questions, because after all, she is the boss. And as Councillor Barlow says, there's not that many districts in South West Water's patch, so let's invite her. I also think that before that meeting, we should ask for them to produce for us a report which, for all the different catchments, there's not that many in East Devon, we have details of where there are issues, when they were first identified, and what they're doing about it and how quickly. And also, I'd just like to dispel one kind of idea that it's, oh gosh, it's all just Victorian infrastructure and it's all terribly difficult. Because actually, in Fluxton, it was a brand new treatment works in 2017, and there seem to have been continual issues. I don't understand why there are discharges there, because it should have been built at capacity for the appropriate number of dwellings that it was going to accommodate. So I think it's not just the old ancient stuff. I think there's problems with the new infrastructure as well. So yeah, please can we ask Susan Davey, please can we have a list of the issues and what they're doing about them for our catchment, so that then when they're here, the people for the different wards know their catchments really well, so they can ask questions, and we can hold South West Water to account. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think what you've suggested for asking for information before is exactly what we need, because if you have it on the night, you haven't got time to interrogate and look at it in the way you would want to. So, but perhaps when we go to the forward plan, we can think the right month for them to come. Because I would like them also to talk about their plan, the plan that they announced on Monday, because I think it would be very useful to know from them.
We might also get some more people here if we got South West Water here.
Okay. Anybody else on anything?
Richard Ford, Councillor Barlow said he doesn't do a report. Well, he sent one to my house and every other house in Honiton, Tiverton, Axminster and everywhere else within his constituency. This is his report. And in there, he says, fighting against sewage, stop taxpayers' money going to water companies whilst they continue to dump sewage. He's working very hard. Perhaps Ian Barlow doesn't live in the Honiton and Tiverton constituency, but I can assure you that he reports to all his constituencies, and he's had meetings, I understand, in every town and every village this summer. He's been everywhere. He's reported back.
But this is not. Look,
But
this
I'm
is not
answering
this is not the
Councillor
meeting.
Barlow's point,
This is the
saying he
meeting.
doesn't report. Well, he does.
What he has not done.
If I could come back, Chair, just say that I'm in no way criticising. I was just saying that we have a report in front of us. It's the only one I have here. I was not in any way criticising. He is my MP, where I live, actually, because I don't live in Sidmouth. So he is my MP. So I have no criticism for it. I'm just saying that the report that we have here, and I didn't criticise that, you said that you've had one report. That's the only one I have in front of me here. It wasn't a criticism of any party. What I said to you is that Simon Jupp, who has worked in Sidmouth, I've worked with him in Sidmouth on Sidmouth's problems. And that's all I was commenting on. I am not a political animal, and I do not care who is in power. I will work with them all. It is not a criticism of any party.
Right. What I'd summarise that with, Councillor Barlow, that what Councillor Arnott said is to send another letter to them asking them to send a report in. But this shouldn't be. This should be about what's right for residents. and that's what we should be looking at. One last comment, and then let's probably look at what we're going to make as our recommendations. Yes.
Can I just reinforce what Councillor Bailey said, that when we asked South West Water to report, what I think we need to ask for is hard data. So if they just come in, here's a list of projects, what we do, what we need a number. So if we're delivering 10,000 water butts, how much water is that taken out of the average rainfall and allow people to put on their garden so they're not drawing water from the taps, or has that stopped flooding, like holding back some of that water? So that's, I think, what the scrutiny is. I think you've alluded to the size. We need to be about data. It needs to be hard, objective data, and then we can look at the numbers and are they going the right way?
Yeah. What I'd add to that, I think that we were discussing what we're going to ask South West Water. If we can get that information beforehand, and we read it before the meeting, and we can still go back to them if we want some more clarification, so they can do some research before they come to the meeting, because sometimes people may not know the microscopic detail that if we say to them we need some more answers on that. But that's why I think the time of that meeting is going to be important. Yes.
I just wanted to reassure residents they can still get their water butts on South West Water's website. I got mine last month. So you can go ahead and get it. It's a long lead time, 8 to 10 weeks, but it arrives. You have to fit it yourself, but it arrives, and it's a big free water butt.
And I think it may well be just the fact that we need to advertise it a bit more to residents that these are available, because I have to say, until I started to read about this, I'd never thought about a water butt, but actually, the more you read about it, it can work. And so I think that...
Clever, I bet we could deliver it with the rubbish every week if you went around. Well, no,
Right, let's any last minute comment, then I'm going to sum this up. Yes, Councillor Collins.
Last Tuesday I came to the planning meeting, and sadly in Honiton they approved 115 houses on a greenfield site which is outside the development land. Taylor Wimpey used the carrot of water butts for every house. Every house was going to be fitted up with water butts and electric charging points. Of course, the committee all jumped at that, and then they all voted for it. But that's what we could do. If Taylor Wimpey can do it, why can't all these other developers put in water butts? Shouldn't be costing ratepayers money.
I think that's probably something that needs to go to planning and officers there, because you make a very valid point. Very valid point.
Sure, that is a valid point, but that is something surely that Scrutiny should recommend to strategic planning. Should be put in the new local plan that it is a requirement. Another one with the tap boxes and the bird boxes, the big bricks and all the other different bits and pieces, solar panels on the roof, that should be put in the strategic plan.
Right, so shall we try to summarise what we're going to make as a recommendation of that very... Right, Sarah, over to you.
Well, you've got the minutes. So you've said quite a lot. You are going to have to help with... Sarah, do you want to read back what you've minuted? And then... That's okay. If you read back the gist of it, and then if members want to identify what is it that you want to ask for. Is that all right? Sorry.
You'll be fine.
Sarah has stepped in at the last minute because the other Sarah is
not well.
So possibly making a recommendation to strategic planning in terms of putting water butts on every house and electric charging points. And it's made that water butts are still available for people to order on the South West Water website. Bear with me.
Sorry to dump you in it.
Well, the overarching one would be to invite South West Water.
Yes.
But before we invite them, so I think this is probably February or March next year, we give them a series of questions, and you just said something really important about, which we've got a note on somewhere.
Going out to other members, isn't it, to getting
yes.
questions
yeah.
to be put forward to this committee to agree at a future date to be put to South West Water recommending that they come to see us in February or March, as you said.
No, we're going to make some recommendations. What questions we're not going to.
Make questions now because
We've already done some, though, haven't we?
We have done some,
Yeah.
but then wouldn't it be better to get those questions? So invite South West Water now. Invite South West Water now for February or March, whatever suits you, and say that we will go out and get the questions. We know we've got some now, but rather than do it in piecemeal, and say that we will approach South West Water with the questions at least 6 weeks before that meeting, and that we could do it for the next meeting, November's meeting, that we will come up with questions that we can talk to other people and get a proper list to put forward for it.
Yeah, that sounds a good plan, doesn't it? Bring it to the next meeting, the questions we want to ask South West Water.
But invite them now, so they've got plenty of time and can't get out of it.
And I think the other point that Jess said is we want someone of seniority.
No, well, you've got to give them time, because they have long holidays. They've got a lot of bones to get rid of.
No.
Sorry.
No, there were. What was the other thing? I just wondered with the water butts whether we ought to, with the water butts for strategic planning, add to that we promote water butts more as a council.
Chair,
would be a recommendation.
can I help? I'm not. Forgive me if the deputy monitoring officer might be able to help us here, but I feel very arrogant saying I don't think it's the role of scrutiny to make recommendations to other committees. I think your role is actually to cabinet, isn't it? I'm just saying that. I don't think normally scrutiny says, "Oh, can this committee do this or that?" I think that's the case, but forgive me.
Can we make a recommendation to strategic planning?
You can definitely recommend to council and cabinet. I will check. I think you can, because I think we recommended to overview and I checked it at that time, but I will check.
Thank you.
I just wonder if it needs to go to strategic planning though, or whether that's something that actually strategic planning probably has on its radar anyway as part of the plan process. But we can note it and minute it. If it's appropriate, we will pass it on. I'd need to check the constitution. I think it is, but I'm ready to stand corrected.
No, I like the idea of sending something out to members. I think that could work. Anything else that we want to make?
Can we ask for the CEO, please?
We can ask, but that's all we can do.
Don't ask, don't it?
That's right.
Is that at risk of sounding stupid? Is that Susan Davey?
Yes. But what would be good about bringing her along is that both she can give us, go back with some of the other stuff that we're going to give her a question, but also she can update us on their plan over the next 5 years, but also update us on the 30 million which is going to be invested, because the point that you've made and others have made is it's 30 million, but when are we going to see a spade in the ground? And where? That would be a very good way to do it, I think.
Yeah, just a thing on the water butts. I know everyone laughed when I said it, but we send out messages on our bins just before Christmas and just after, and then we're also attracting gardeners at the moment because we want more people to use the green waste system in the area. And again, this would be a great one to say, free water butts with a little thing on it. We go to houses everywhere. It wouldn't cost us very much to do that, and it would make a big difference to our water.
Well, I think we will make the recommendation. I think that Jeff needs to talk to his officer to see the best way of doing this. And I wouldn't want to put them in a straitjacket, it's got to be this way. But I think the idea of promoting it, because I say, I've never thought of it. And how many other residents feel the same, that they never thought of going to water butt?
I would just say give them the feedback that this is why it matters. This is how it helps.
And it does
as you
matter.
say, until you think about it, you don't understand the ramifications both for reducing water use and capturing rainwater. And once that's seen, that might help. I mean, obviously, a gardener's going to know, oh, great, free source of water for my plants, but there are other benefits there.
I'm always told in advertising that you don't mix messages, and if we're sending messages out about waste and recycling, it has to be on waste and recycling. We shouldn't be mixing it up with water butts, but we are looking at tying in with South West Water to use to promote water butts on South West Water's behalf on our messaging on Facebook and other social medias.
Well, I think we're putting the recommendation, we'll leave you and the officers to design the tactics. Anything else we want to, or have we got enough there?
I think we've got enough. Sorry, I was just trying to check that point. point about strategic planning. The answer with water butts might be that you ask, or that we minute, that in the minutes that you ask officers to ask the communications manager to consider the issue of water butts, because that might be the better way to do it, and then he can pass that out to the relevant teams, and Jeff can pop them on the back of the bin truck or something and drop them off on the way round. Sorry.
Can I suggest
been a long
it would be
day.
a really good thing to having integrated in our East Devon app, where people can access and request. At the moment, the South West Water website, you have to go through a bit of a survey, and if you don't put the right answers, you don't get access to the free water butt. Even though you might really need it, and it would benefit almost every property to have a water butt. If you don't answer the right question on the South West Water page, you don't get access to it. You get offered something else.
What the officer could do is update the residents' email that goes out, which I think is superb. It's the first thing I signed up to when I lived in Sidmouth. I thought it was brilliant. But water butts have never been on there. And it's just people know him. And I think it's a simple solution to it.
It's a great system. It is a great system. Do you know how many people use that system? No. Well, the only thing I know is that we deliver to every single household every single week. And much as you don't want to mix your messages, you could do a message this week about recycling your waste and the next week about recycling your water. It's all recycling. It all helps. And it's a really, really, really efficient way to get to every single household.
Thank you very much for your insistence there. And I will leave it to the officers to do it. Okay, so I think we've done that pretty well. Thank you very much for that debate. Very useful. Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to agenda item 10? Now, this is about the update on the scoping for grass cutting. And this committee will know that it was first brought up in July, and we were going to have a scoping in September, and that got delayed because of holidays. I was expecting it for this meeting, and then was disappointed it wasn't, but there are some issues, and I understand that we got our learned colleague here. Jeff's going to explain what the situation is.
Thank you. Yep, I've been asked to talk about grass.
As you do. Water one day, grass next.
I would love to get the report out and discuss it and get it sorted, because I get emails all the time. Why has this been cut? Or why, no, has it been cut? Why hasn't it been cut? What's this, why is this area doing there? I haven't got a clue where they're talking about. I have to look on Google Maps to find out exactly what they're talking about. There's a lot of very keen people who are very supportive of biodiversity and not having grass cuts, and equally we have people who love to see everything neat and tidy. And it is really one side and another side now, and it's becoming very, very difficult. I really want to get this sorted as soon as possible. However, the nature recovery policy that we have agreed to, that we're working with Devon County Council with, has to come first, because that will then dictate where we can identify where the nature is, and then we can then identify what areas need to be cut and not cut. Also, we've got staff changes coming through. We have had staff shortages throughout the summer, but now rewilding in our open areas in our towns is very, very important, and yes, it is urgent, but unfortunately we can't do it at this moment, and we have to wait for the nature recovery, because then that will then kick in the rewilding.
Thank you for that. My concern about waiting is what will happen to next year's programme, because the grass cutting will start March, April time. We really do need, I would suggest, to get it right before then. Are we likely to have that before then? Because if not, that does concern me.
Yeah, if we've learned now, every year we learn lessons, and we are we're benefiting from people's feedback all the time, and there are areas that I'm aware that we are changing in how we treat that area. Some areas are going to be go back to mowing. Some areas we're going to expand the wildlife areas, and that's sort of one-offs as we go through the programme, to come up with an absolute policy for every area, for every location in the whole district would be a massive project. The most problems we have is in Sidmouth. We know that Sidmouth is one of the problem areas, and we're doing everything possible with working with the biodiversity groups, working with the town council, and our officers are. I had emails from our officers today dealing with a very small area that took me ages to find out on the map. That's been sorted for this year. There's another couple of areas in Sidmouth that we've sorted out in the last couple of months. So it's sort of one-off tweaks to the system at the moment. I can't see us going through the whole policy because it needs mapping. We need everything mapped out. We need schedules done for every location. It's a massive, massive job.
Yeah, but thank you for that. But my concern is that we are implementing a plan, if you like, cutting certain stuff and but we haven't got a strategy to know why we're doing that. That's my concern, and that's why I wanted it brought here, so we knew exactly why that came under cutting, that didn't come under cutting, and that's what I was asking. What I thought we wanted, we were going to get.
Yeah, unfortunately, the strategy was developed before my time, but before I inherited it, and COVID has got in between, and it's a policy that, or strategy that, whatever you call it, it grew out of an idea of, oh, let's do this, let's see if it works, and it's grown and grown, and it's become almost norm throughout the country now for having rewilding areas. And yes, we certainly need to nail it and and say this area is this, that area is that. But it's going to take a long time for that to be set. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wicks.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the other problems is, Jeff has already referred to mapping. We get a lot of complaints, I believe, and yet some of them may not even be our responsibility because they could belong to be a problem which is associated with Devon County Council highways. And so this is why mapping is required, so that people know who is responsible for which areas of the rewilding.
Should be done. But that mapping should be there. It should be. We should know what the mapping is, because otherwise, how would we know what to cut and what not to cut as a district? So I'm struggling to understand why that's an issue. Because we obviously have mapped what we're responsible for as a district, and then you've got the town council, the parish council, and the county council. And all I'm saying is, have we not got a strategy that says it comes under there, the rewilding ticks those boxes, so that's going to be rewilding? That's what I would have thought we would have.
Unfortunately, that's not what we have. A lot of the street scene staff know what areas to cut, and they've got their timesheets, they've got their instructions, and it's not the same in each area. There's no full strategic map for the whole district, which is what I would like. We're trying to do that with the bin strategy at the moment, and we're now finding that they're all in the wrong place. Everything needs. Now mapping now has moved on in the last 5 years, and we can do some really clever mapping very quickly. But it will take time to get that done, but we haven't got that system yet.
Okay, Councillor Barlow.
Oh, well, I think that's just been asked. I was just going to say, do we have a strategy? But obviously, from the sound of that, well, we sort of do, that we do what we think we've done before, I presume, really more than anything else. So my question is, what can we do to improve this? Is there a system where we can get, you know, I represent Sidmouth comes to me, people moan about different places, and Jeff is quite, I sympathise with him totally. You have one brigade that says we must leave it all as it is, it's lovely. The other says they want it trimmed up so they can play bowls on it. So, and somewhere in the middle it will meet. I just think that we need to have some way so that, you know, whether we can say to locals, if there is like a little green in front of a load of houses, if all of the people get together and they organise themselves that they have a vote, then we will change our policy, because at the moment they just feel like this is being imposed. I don't know, that probably is not going to be easy to do. I don't know, but we need to find something, because at the moment we have a lot of people very divided, and it's causing a lot of problems, almost fisticuffs in places.
Oh, I've seen the
right. People are blaming the rewilding on the rats. I've got the housing department saying they've got houses that are infested with rats because of it, and I don't know what the causes of everything is, and I'm sure it's not all the causes of rewilding, but I'm sure there has to be some sort of way we can come to some sort of balance, so that at least we can say to the people, well, look, you voted for it, or you agreed to this, we're trying it for a period of time. But, you know, it does. I suppose the system does work because that area has now been cut. But then I've got people being told different things. The Green Brigade are now saying, oh, that's all right, it's all being redone, it's all going to be a wildflower meadow and allowed to grow again. And then someone else is saying, no, it's now going to be cut on a regular basis. And it almost like the one department is not talking to each other because there isn't a strategy, I suppose. You know, because there isn't a strategy, people can say different things, even within departments of the council, because there are in those departments the people that want it biodiversity and the people who want it cut.
And I take that, and I think that's exactly what I've just been saying, that they both need to link in. Otherwise, we're in this situation now. Sorry, carry on.
Okay, I'd just like to, again, put the scrutiny hat on. We need data. And I think what we need to be doing, I know Councillor Young's made the point that there's an awful lot of work to get to a really nice digitised map system where we've got all the data to hand over the whole district. That's a long way away. But I think what we could be doing is trying to get into the plans as we move forward, collection of data along multiple aspects. So if we're talking about rewilding, let's have some data. Did it enhance species, numbers, distribution, diversity, all of those things? So we've got evidence this is working. Talking to the population, do the people feel happy or unhappy? This comes back to one of the other items on communications. How are we communicating our policy, even if it's not a full policy, are we communicating what we're doing to the populace so they understand this is actually a deliberate attempt by us to rectify these problems, and here's some information to show you that we're making progress. We ain't going to fix it overnight. So I think as scrutiny, we ought to be asking for that data. And maybe we can only do little bits to start with, but we can then build from there and then bring, hopefully, some consensus amongst the population that we're doing the right thing.
And I think you made a really good point again, that it is about data. But I think what I'm hearing from Councillor Young is that the problem is the officers haven't currently got the time to put those sort of things together. But it's how long do we wait to have that, coupled with the fact we haven't got a strategy.
And also maybe just in a small scale. We don't have to do it across the whole district to start with, but we can pick one or two areas so that the officers are not totally overwhelmed by solving the whole world's problems, but we can build from the contentious areas outwards, maybe.
Before I bring you in. Would it be possible to do something similar to that? Because you mentioned Sidmouth. Could we do Sidmouth and do some analysis of Sidmouth, or is that going to be tough?
And before we do that, could we not use the people that have a passion in Sidmouth for this, i.e. the biodiversity group? And I know I'm my ward, whatever, but I know they're a passionate group. They're very professional. But working with, you're saying that we do out job sheets to know the people that do they know what bits they're cutting. They do out a job sheet and do it. If they were to have an iPad and access to put on a map where they are cutting today, within a year, we would then have our complete thing done for that area that officer or that operative does, just by teaching them how to put a point on a map. It's not going to take a huge amount of time. What it would do is use the records you've got now, the workmen you've got now are filling in the form, and yes, it would take a year, but at least in a year, we know we would have a record of what we're doing, how we're if we're cutting that area or rewilding it, and then we can digitalise it. We're always being told by our leadership that we are digitalising, that will save us money and time. This is something that we could easily digitalise and that would then come back, and then you've got the information, because as you say, data is important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if the issue we've had in Altry is actually rewilding or flower meadows or just plain not got cut. But I was getting complaints back through early summer because everything in some of our own land, residential sites, was just not cut, and it was long, so they couldn't get to their washing lines because the grass has got so long. So, if it was supposedly wildflowers, then could we just control where it goes? If there's open spaces where you can afford to let it go wild, then that's fine, but not right round all the houses and all the accommodation we're letting out to customers and then saying, well, this has gone to wild, whether they want it or not. Mm-hmm. Because, it's not okay when it's pushed on you, when you're renting council land, council property, and having your patch of grass in front of your house gone wild, whether you want it or not. Mm-hmm. So can we actually sort of be controlled over what goes, what's wild and what isn't, so that it's not forced on people all the time?
Thank you, and I think that's why we need to know what the strategy is and why that grass isn't and that isn't. Councillor Young, look, we debated this one. It's some really good discussions. I think we're going to have to take off the table, but I'm just wondering how could we move this forward? Because our residents, and you've said it, you've had a lot of residents of constituency. How could we, this committee, help you move forward? Because it is an issue that's not going to go away. And I can just imagine next April, May, June time, it will raise its head again.
Exactly. You've got to remember, rewilding is not just letting it go wild. It's actually more management to go rewilding than it is to cut short. Mm-hmm. Now, it's dead easy to get a mower out and set it to low setting and off you go. To rewild does take a lot more expertise and a lot more knowledge. So there's that. There's also different areas have to be treated differently. There's also issues of steep slopes that we have to contend with, health and safety and all the rest of it. So there's that. Regarding Ottery, there are, if you look on the website, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas in Ottery that have got rewilding issues. Yes, some areas last year weren't cut for quite a while. There was staff shortages also. It was a very wet early summer that was made the grass grow very quickly, and it was difficult to cut it. So there's a number of issues that we're cutting last year, which we hope will resolve this year. And regards Sidmouth, I'm talking to the town council to see if we can set up some way of communication. I would much prefer to deal with the town councils and the parish councils rather than everyone coming through me. So
I would agree.
Not passing the buck, but I really don't know where some of these places are, and they have got there's experts, and there's experts in these towns, but yeah, I'm talking with the Sidmouth Town Council at the moment to see if we can urgently get something sorted for next season, and I'm waiting for officers to come back to me on that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Look, sorry, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I just, so on our website, which Councillor Young was just referred to, if you go to Home, Parks, Gardens and Recreation, and then Improving Green Spaces for Wildlife, it's got listed there all of the sites in Sidmouth that are, it's a list of wildlife improvement areas. So there's the list there for Sidmouth, Sidbury, Newton Poppleford, Exmouth, which is about 3 times Sidmouth, Budley, East Budley, Woodbury and Aylesbury, Cliff St Lawrence, Honiton and Ottery St Mary, as Peter rightly says, and then Seaton and Beer, Axminster, Charterstock and Musbury. So there'll be people watching this tonight, some of them friends of mine, who will say this is not rewilding and we need to be really careful with the use of the word. This is effectively what it is for a period of the year allowing the grass to grow out. Now in some places there's a more creative intervention where there are people dropping in the right kinds of seeds and hoping they'll have the right kind of flowers for the bees and the insects and whatever. And in others it's just not cut and then it's cut later. So what it looks like at the moment is not a problem with identifying the sites, because that's there on our website, and I think it should be quite well known in the local areas, and I suspect quite well supported. Now I am aware in Sidmouth, you know, people who live next door to each other who take polar opposite views, and you know, oh, you savage the wild grasses, and they're going yay, and then the other people are going, oh no, you know, it's the end of the planet. So these type of subjective arguments are always going to exist between people who like, as Councillor Barlow rightly said, to live in a world of bowling greens, you know, all around the year, and people who like it a bit fuzzy around the edges to help out wildlife. So I think, Chair, what I was saying is, we know where it's meant to be happening. That's listed. It's pretty clear what the strategy, why we're doing it. I mean, it's all there, you know, about biodiversity. There's something about glyphosate bans and so forth. There's the list of insects, butterflies, moths, birds that have benefited from this, and then, as I said, the areas. But it is an operational question, isn't it? And I think what Jeff has said is there have clearly been difficulties, COVID, number of employees we've got, and then I've heard the mapping idea before, and that's really worth investigating, but I understand it's incredibly difficult. It's very hard for somebody out there to, well, obviously walk around with an iPad or even an iPhone. I mean, that's not really their job. And to go to a pin and know from that they shouldn't be cutting that bit. And so there have been mistakes. There have been bits that should never have been cut that were, and perhaps pieces that should have been cut that weren't. But I think it is around operational issues. And I think what's happened is that street scene have often got to the point where they've thought, right, at the moment we've got not as many people at work as we would wish, so we just need to give it the basic, you know, number one cut sometimes, and that has happened. So I think that's it. I think it's, if you're going to drill down, I think the policy is there, the sites are there, but it is probably about how we're managing to deliver it and how we're managing to communicate that consistently to the women and men doing the work. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
It's not that, it's a list, and it's, if you just, well, I'll tell you what I did, Peter, I just googled East Devon District Council rewilding, and then there it is, the list, which is improving green spaces for wildlife.
Councillor Collins.
I would just like to say that back in May, the piece of land between the business centre and this building was rotivated. And I thought, what on earth are they doing that for? And then I set a sign up to say that it's going to be wild here. And now, the last month or so, there's been a lovely display of wild flowers out there. They're truly magnificent. Now, those flowers need to be left to seed. Don't go cutting them, else they won't seed. You need those seeds to drop out onto the ground, and ideally they need to be rolled in. And then you wouldn't have to buy seeds next year. They will come up naturally.
Thank you.
I've done quite a lot of work on different farms, land where we've rent, and the owners want wild flower meadows. And I've had a lot of success. The first thing you need is to get yellow rattle to grow. Yellow rattle is a plant which sucks off the roots of other plants, coarse grasses mainly, and they will kill the coarse grass, and you've got rid of it. And also, you talk about some of these areas got a lot of long, rough grass. Well, you want to leave that through the winter, because you've got somewhere then for the harvest mice and dormice and things to go and make nests in. That needs to be left. And ideally, you want to get some sort of dung on these patches, or compost. So you've got beetles there. If you want wildlife, you've got to have some manures put on these areas so that you'll get beetles, larvae and things, and then you'll get your butterflies and your moths, and everything will come eventually.
Thank you for that. Councillor Barlow, and then we'll...
Just for sympathy, we get a couple of cows then.
Good idea.
Sorry, pull them in there. Seriously, just one thing. We keep getting told for every problem we've got, whether it's we've got the problems we've had, no staff, this, that and the other. Could we find out how many staff do we have now compared to back along? And where are those staff? What is the split of actual people that go out and do things and the ones behind the scenes management? I don't want to step out of line and whether that's true or not.
I understand where you come from. I think that's outside this meeting for tonight. But I'm sure that will come up with a peer review. There's an opportunity for the council to look, as the leader has said, is to look at the way we're running the council and look at the staff. And I think that's where it needs to fit, because we shouldn't be in a position we don't get things done because we haven't got the staff. We should have enough staff. And I know the leader would never want us not to have the right number of staff. But I cannot comment whether or not we got them right now, but I think having the peer review... That isn't
something for scrutiny, that's something else.
No, I think what I'm saying is I think that comes under the peer review for them to look at the way the council's being run in terms of all the departments and then make a judgment call or suggest, well, we think these areas and these are fine, but there's not. I don't know. I think it's too early for me to say how that's going to... I don't know if the leader would like to come in there.
I think I was trying to explain that to Councillor Barlow about 3 hours ago after another meeting. Yes, that peer review is a major opportunity, and I'm really grateful for you, Chair, to have pointed that out. It is, in a way, an opportunity for every single member to raise concerns exactly like this, and it's likely to lead to identifying the need for action, I'd say, quicker than you asking for a report on,
yes.
Sort of ragwort or something, directly here. So, yes, it is. If it wasn't for that coming up almost immediately.
Yeah.
But, yes, thank you.
Okay, look, I want to go back to what the leader said, is that, yes, there is the website with all this on there. I think the query that keeps going to Councillor Young is the fact that why did they choose this area to have that? Why didn't they choose the other? And what I was hoping we might be able to get done is for them to look at those areas. And what I'd like to suggest to the committee, look, we're not going to resolve this all tonight. It's a real meaty subject again. But can I suggest we ask Councillor Young to bring a report perhaps in February, March time before the season starts? Would that be the appropriate way, Councillor Young, to bring something back? It's not, yeah. What I'm suggesting is that we can't resolve. This is a massive, massive subject, not just in East Devon. This is throughout the country. And as the leader and other people have pointed out, there are polar views of this. Different, whether you live next door or not, they have got a lot of different views. What I'm suggesting is, could we therefore have a review of officers for a meeting, perhaps February, March time, give us an update before we get into it, and then they would have a time to say how they're going to plan it. We could have an update from what Devon are doing as well, because I think it's such an important subject to get right.
Perhaps, Chair, a report on how he's got on with Sidmouth or whoever else he's trying it with, and if that could then be brought out across the district to other towns that might want to, yes, use that knowledge.
Yeah, what I think you're saying there is if Councillor Young can arrange for Sidmouth to be a trial, if you like, to see what works, and then over time you can, if it works, you can go out to other areas, because I think our residents are asking for it, and I think it'd be good if we could see something like that being done, Councillor Young.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come back in, say, April, or maybe March.
March, if we
March, just to say, right, this is what we're doing this year. But I think then next year we can take the strategy forward.
And it might be, Councillor Young, with the peer review, there may be some good practices we may hear from other councils, or it might be other councils are not doing it as well as we're doing it. And I think that's what the peer review can help with us as well. So I think that is quite exciting as well.
Yeah, we've already done that to find out how the best way of mapping, best way of what to plant first, and yellow rattle is one of the things that we know about. And now this time of year it does look a mess. A lot of the wildlife areas, because yes, we're waiting for them to drop all their seeds. But I think a lot of people do appreciate it. I just had a report. I've just been showing my colleague here on a wildlife area, and it looks like about 30 wild plants were on this small area, which looks fantastic. I won't go through all the names. They're all Latin, so I haven't got a clue what they mean.
Well, look, can I first of all thank you for that contribution in updating this committee? And are we happy that we ask Councillor Young and officers to bring a report back in perhaps March time, which gives them time, and because I think it would be very helpful for us to have an update, and we look forward to see what happens in Sidmouth in the meantime. Okay, okay, thank you. Right, last item, isn't it? So on the forward plan, you've got the forward plan in front of you, item 11. Are there anything else we want added? Are you happy with that? The only thing that I mentioned earlier is what the scope document will be for the portfolio holder. Because when I saw what was coming last year from the portfolio holder through the officers, the amount of work went into that was phenomenal. I think we need to slim it down, because I think there's more value. Oh, yeah, often less can be more, because, and I think that's what I know Melanie, but she's been busy, was going to work on. So are we happy with that forward plan? Is there anything else anybody's got to say about the forward plan?
Okay, I mean, if you look at the forward plan, and the thing we just discussed with Councillor Young is it's not on there, and you've already got other things slotted in for March and April, so it might be you need to move around some of those, because you said this is quite a big thing. It's probably going to take a good chunk of the meeting to do justice to it.
The only thing I'd come in there, I think we would want to know what it's going to be like, even if it was only just a short update. But I don't think what I think we're saying, that's going to be enough for March. We wouldn't want anything else on March.
Well, and we've got South West Water coming to give us a talk, which might take up a little bit of time, I fear. So
it might have to be made. It might have to be made to them.
Should I suggest, Chair, if we leave the dates as they are, because
we can
sort
play
of
around
naturally wiggle things as we get a bit closer.
And I presume, Chair, that if we need an extra one, we can, if there's something important like South West Water, which I think would probably need its own meeting. But
because you see, in the forward plan, because we're late getting cabinet reports, we've got some months where we've got two. And I know we want a cabinet report every month, but I wouldn't be adverse if this committee agreed not to only have one month if there's something more important, because what we don't know is anything else going to happen that we need to add to it. So I think we need to keep it fluid if everybody's happy with that. Okay, with that, can I thank you for a very interesting debate. I thought it was going to be a very short meeting, but I thought some very valuable comments made by everybody, both inside and outside. And I thank the Cabinet and other members for their contribution. And thank you very much. And we'll call the meeting to an end. Thank you. Thank you.